Our world is changing so fast, and this change is on so many different levels that adapting to the change that is happening is very challenging, to say the least. We all are aware of this. In my lifetime, I have seen so many changes, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, just the fact that the first job I had, I made $1.80 an hour. And that this house that I own, at one time, we rented it for $600 a month. Now it's worth a lot of money. Houses are now going for $1 million. All the money changes that have happened seem to impact us the most. The fact that everything costs more money is causing people to feel tremendous amounts of stress about the ability to survive. But frankly, the things that are changing most and that are talked about least is the change between yin and yang in the world now. Our need to be forceful and yang is changing dramatically. We no longer need to work as hard as we used to. People are not day to day going to work in the mill or a mine. The need to challenge the world and to mold the world in a forceful way is disappearing. The need to protect your family is disappearing. Whereas just a couple hundred years ago, a man had to protect his family, literally protect it from wild animals. You had to work hard to protect yourself from the weather. You had to work hard to protect yourself from other human beings. That has all changed. Now we rely on the system. We rely on our government. We rely on corporations to feed us. Most people don't even know where their food comes from. We have no idea where our water comes from. You go and flick a switch and suddenly there's electricity. Whereas not long ago, we had to go chop wood. You had to have oil and light lamps. You had to kill animals and then salt the meat. You had to grow vegetables and can them. This was not very long ago at all. So the world has changed dramatically in that sense, in that we no longer have to have tremendous amounts of testosterone. I'm speaking specifically to men, in order to survive. We can just sit in front of our computer. We don't have to work as hard. We don't have to deal with the weather. You have air conditioning and heating. So the world has been tamed for us. Well, consequently, we have been tamed. We are very passive now. Human beings, in particular men, have been trained to be very passive. Now you put that together with the rise of women finding their power and their voice in the world, and we have men feeling, in the West anyway, feeling rather threatened about what it is to be a man. What is it to be a man? So the point I'm trying to make is that we're having trouble getting along. We're having trouble staying married. And perhaps marriage is becoming a dead institution. My children are now 30s, in their early 30s, and this house that we live in used to be full of children. 2 of them have become married. Out of all the kids that used to come to this house, only 2 of them have married. Now, this is significant. When I was younger, I remember on Sundays you would hear horns honking and the sound of tin cans being dragged behind a car because somebody was getting married. Then in the 60s and the 70s, divorce became popular. And now we're in this place where, I don't know, people are questioning, whether marriage is needed, and perhaps it isn't. But what about the kids? What about property? What about when you buy a house? These things have not been hammered out yet. And I suspect we'll hammer these things out in time. But in the meantime, it's kind of sloppy. It's kind of messy. What exactly is going on in the power structure between men and women? To step beyond just men and women, you can see that this is happening on a global level as well. The earth is yin, it's the female. Well, we're yang, we're the activity on the surface of the planet. And we have overstepped our bounds. We are just, messing with the mother. We're creating a lot of pollution. These things are obvious. We've created nuclear bombs. We've scored the surface of the earth with lots of concrete. We've built these mega cities everywhere. And so there's the same thing is being reflected there. And perhaps what is being reflected between men and women is nothing more than a resonance from this problem that we have with the planet itself. We are become too young. We are no longer in bounds with nature. We have decided that we are going to manipulate nature. And perhaps that's what's going on. Perhaps the conflict between the sexes is a reflection of the conflict we have with the planet itself. And again, I don't know what the answer is. I don't really see us going back in time and all becoming farmers again, or going further back and becoming, hunter-gatherers. That's ridiculous. It's the opposite is happening. We're having more and more and more people on the planet. Some say that AI is going to come along and become the benevolent, intelligence that'll figure out a way for us to all get along and perhaps create everything through 3D printing and things like that. That sounds wonderful, but I just kind of have my doubts that's true. I would love to think that's true. Maybe it is true. I'm just putting questions out more than answers. And my observations of the imbalance between yin and yang, the imbalance between firmness and flexibility has gone amok in the modern world. And it's accelerating at a tremendous rate where we see more and more and more yang activity and less and less yin flexibility. Do you see people slowing down? Do you see people stopping their thoughts? No, we're looking at our phones. We're becoming more data orientated. We're becoming confused about what is life. Is life a bunch of data? Is life a bunch of activity? Is life nothing but conflict? Is that what it's about? Because it seems like there's conflict on every avenue anymore. Is this really what life is about? A bunch of conflict? I say no. Do we go back in time? Do we go back to the traditional roles and slow life down? I don't think so. I suspect we're going to become more androgynous, and as we become more androgynous, we'll discover this yin and yang within ourselves and figure these things out. The politics of life, we'll figure it out. But in the meantime, I say all of us should figure out a way to slow down and become more internal, not so much focused on the external and activity. If more and more of us do that, slow down our need to consume, not just things, but consume experience. Slow down your need to run through people, to have more, if somebody doesn't, get along with somebody, you just discard them and find somebody else. Discover the need for things is internal, and that our desire to be here on earth is essentially internal. It's not external at all. And we have been programmed in the modern life to see everything as external, and the more external it becomes, the more polarized it becomes. As life becomes more and more polarized, the polarization between the sexes grows, the polarization between the rich and the poor grows, the polarization between the smart and the not so smart grows, the polarization between us and the animals, us and nature itself. So I'm not saying I have an answer, but if things are more yang and becoming more yang, we can become more yin, more internal. Strive to find the answers that you're looking for inside of yourself. Look for ways to be quiet and quiescent about the activity in your life. Turn your phone off, sit still, quiet your mind. Now, I'm not talking about sticking your head in the sand. I'm saying for your own good, for the sake of your relationships with other people, for the sake of your relationship with the planet itself. Learn to become more internal and more yin and more flexible and adaptive rather than demanding that the world changes for you. Because the world is becoming more crowded, and as it becomes more crowded, there's going to be less opportunity for the world to change for you. So look inside for the answers that you hope to find. Somehow find a way to be content and adaptable with your situation in life. You only have a short period of time to be here. Find joy and simplicity. Find happiness in relationship with other people. And above all, be happy that you're here on the earth and you're here for a reason, and that reason is to be here on the earth.